as mayor to continue that relationship, and why? Because I think and I believe that that is very, very important for the city itself. So I'll start with Ronnie.
Does it Shane start? Fine.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Shane.
Thanks, Ronnie. The military is what brought me to town, and I think that's probably the case for a lot of people that weren't born here. It is so critically important. I was talking with Captain Eric Hanks at the Military Appreciation Picnic a few weeks ago, and just was thanking him for being such a marvelous neighbor. And he's like, I really appreciate that compliment, but we don't see ourselves as a neighbor. We see ourselves as one community. So that was like a moment for reflection, because about a decade before I moved here, NAS Whidbey was on the base realignment and closure list. And I think Crane, where my dad was working in Indiana, I think was on that as well. So seen it from afar, but I was pretty young at the time. But to see Oak Harbor be able to move from being on that BRAC to the captain of the base saying, we don't see ourselves as a neighbor, we see ourselves as one community. That's amazing. It's beautiful. And it's part of what makes Oak Harbor so special. So, as a council member, as a member of the community, and if elected mayor, God willing, I will continue to be at every single military event that we have in town, trying to bolster that connection, trying to bolster that sense of one community. I think it was in July or August, the military had they had a music festival on the base, and it was, I say music festival, it was more of like a family festival. There was a band that played there, and they did a great job. But there must have been a dozen inflatable bounce houses and thousands of little kids running around. And to see our future running around, kids growing up in Oak Harbor, knowing that they're going to go to every corner of the world and take that same sense of community with them. Pretty special, really special. Back in March, I was fortunate enough to go to the Pentagon and talk about that connection, talk about building that sense of community, and it was really great, to hear from the Pentagon about how much they value that relationship, and how the relationship between the city of Oak Harbor and the United States Navy is one of the strongest that they have in America. Pretty cool. We live in a special place, and there are 7 council members, there's 1 mayor, the city has 170 employees. Yes, we're all part of making that such a strong connection. But really, it's the 25,000 people that live here and support the Navy that make that so strong. That's why they feel this is one of the best places they have. So to every one of you that support the Navy and support Oak Harbor, thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, so the Navy brought me here in 1996, like I said, so I am a former Navy veteran and very proud of that. It's even displayed on the entry lobbyway of my wall of my business. What we need to do to continue to foster our relationship with the Navy and our community is to continue to remind them that they have a seat at the table and that we want to hear what they have to say and that their needs are important to us. Having conversations with Captain Hanks and other leaders on the base, it's very evident to me that I think sometimes they feel like they're not being heard, or that we're not always prioritizing things that are a priority to them. So we need to work on that. I think that we need to continue to listen and make sure that they're being heard, and we respect that and honor that. We need to continue to make education in our schools a priority for them. That's very important to them, and it's something that we're not always keeping at the top of our list. So that's one of the main ways that we can show them, not just tell them, but we can also demonstrate to them that they are a priority to us and that we're working on their behalf. The other way is that we need to work on the affordable housing issue. The affordable housing issue is a very big problem for them, that we have people living as far away as Cedar Woolley and Bellingham. So we need to work on that and address that. And again, that will be us demonstrating to them, not just telling them how important they are to us. Thank you.
Next question is, how would you enhance Oak Harbor's environmental sustainability and resilience? Right?
All right. So this one's tough because it's something that we probably haven't done as much work as we need to do in our immediate local area of government, but it's also something that's a bigger problem nationally if we watch the news and we look at what's going on in the world. I think that we're all trying to play catch up on this issue. One of the things that we can do is we can take the lead of our community partners like Island Transit, though, who are going as green as they can go with their vehicles and setting up charging stations. And I think it was by 2026, did she say? Or yeah, by 2026 they're going to be completely electric with their vehicles, or no gas anymore. So we can definitely take their lead and partner with them and figure out how they're doing it, what they're doing, and do a better job of reducing our carbon footprint and lowering our emissions. This is a very costly endeavor, though. So again, this is going to be something that we're not able to just do in the next, I would even say probably 4 to 6 or 8 years. It's going to be an extended period of time that we have to really put some effort in there. We're going to have to start being proactive. We have a lot of priorities. We have a lot of goals. If you look at our capital projects list at the city, there are a lot of things that have been let go for an extended period of time in our community, and we really need to hunker down and reprioritize and set a path forward. We're sitting down with department heads and working out what is the biggest need of our community and how are we attacking basically all of these areas in some way to make tangible change so that we can deliver tangible results to our community. So, thank you.
Being on an island, this matter is already affecting us whether we like it or not. And it's costly. In December of last year, a king tide did substantial damage at City Beach Park. As well, considerable damage was done at the waterside condos. In working with our state representative and his working with the governor, a declaration of disaster was able to happen. The condos, for instance, were under a couple of feet of water. Much damage was done to the shoreline of the park, causing much of the walking path to become undermined, getting uncomfortably close to the Rotary Bridge and the water park. In working with the various government agencies, we were able to put a temporary solution in place, protecting infrastructure from further damages. Work continues towards long-term solutions. Rising tides are just one part of this question. Conservation of lands with grant funding for proper stormwater storage is another project we've been working on. For the first time in Oak Harbor's history, we have created a development impact fee for stormwater. This funding will allow us to further invest in proper stormwater management. As we are forced to build more densely, this is increasingly important. With the type of rain we can get around here, urban flooding is no joke. One of the coolest things we've been able to accomplish recently, and possibly you've read about this in the newspaper. Have I gushed about how amazing our staff is yet? They really truly are. We were able to land a $1.6 million urban forestry grant. We all know the most basic benefit of trees, from their beauty to their assistance in stormwater management, storing carbon and promoting clean air to breathe. Possibly the most financially impactful benefit to our community is the ability to reduce heating and cooling costs, and in a substantial way. Urban trees typically reduce heating and cooling costs by up to 10%. This reduction in energy consumption also reduces the pollution from production of said energy. I think this is what you call a win-win. Climate resilience is something that we are legally required to address in our comprehensive plan, and for good reason. From pervious pavement to electric vehicle charging stations, this is something we will continue to address as we can afford to, and as opportunities arise. Opportunities such as the Urban Forestry Grant. This is one of the many paths we are working towards a more affordable and livable community. Thanks.
Okay, and the last question is, as elected mayor, Ronnie or Shane, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
This is an absolutely wonderful question, and it might be the most quintessential question of this this entire debate cycle, 6 of them I think there's been. First and foremost, and this has been a huge part of my platform and a main tenet that I've always leaned upon, my approach to every decision has been and will continue to be based on how it affects the average citizen in Oak Harbor and how affordable it will be to its residents. Our current finance director, deputy city administrator, is one of the brightest minds I've ever met. Continuing to empower and support him will be a big part of our success. Council funded the creation of a grants administrator position that works under our finance director. This employee is a rock star, and we are seeing unimaginable successes in landing grant after grant. These grants bring our hard-earned tax dollars home to Oak Harbor, allowing us to invest in critical infrastructure projects. It's important to understand that a new city council is elected every 2 years, as I discussed earlier. In the previous election, you and the rest of the voting public elected the best city council that I can recall. We have a great team. I can't rave enough about my fellow council members and city staff. The success we've already brought with regards to putting our community on firmer financial footing. The desire to continue and accelerate the success and progress we are seeing was probably the single biggest factor in my decision to run for mayor. Wise project management is a must. Avoiding the cataclysmic errors of the past is a requirement. My nearly 2 decades of experience in construction means I'm the one experienced in this. If you go back to when the sewer treatment plant was built with $100 million in cost overruns, that happened with extraordinarily educated individuals at the helm. A couple of doctors, in fact. What the city didn't have at the time was someone like myself with decades of understanding how facilities like these physically work. My 15 years of working for the government and my 8 years of serving in elected positions lets me confidently say I'm the candidate with proven relative experience. Another thing that we've done on council, and this was a huge lift, we have created and filled an economic development coordinator position. This allows us to fulfill a top priority of intentional economic development. This moves us towards not only a more sustainable financial future, but also towards a more livable community with more places to live, work, and recreate. So there you have 3 steps towards firmer financial footing. Approach every decision based on how it affects the average citizen in Oak Harbor and how affordable it will be to its residents. Build upon current successes while focusing on issues such as wise project management, and progressively seek grant funding and intentional economic development. Thank you.
All right, so the 3 things I'll just list and then I will expand upon them for you all. Financial accountability, financial transparency, and we need to deliver tangible results on not just our capital improvements that we say we're doing or what are in our work plan, but as well as on things as far as grants and other things. We've heard all the great things that Shane's talked about that are happening, but I don't see, and everyone that I've talked to, and it's been well over 1,400 people on this campaign trail this last 10, 12 weeks that we've been doing this, people don't feel like they're hearing from our local government what we're actually accomplishing and what we're doing for them. So we need to do a better job of demonstrating to you all what the hard work is, how it's paying off, and where that's affecting you in your daily lives, and how you can feel that or maybe recognize that so that it feels tangible to you. I think that people just don't feel relatable to our local government right now. I don't feel like we're doing a great job of communicating with you all, and we need to do a much better job of that in the way of how we communicate from the city, but in the way of how we communicate as elected officials as well. So accountability, you want somebody that can really look at financial statements and analyze those. I've been doing it for 25 plus years. I've got the experience. I have a long list of endorsements that will also talk to you about the demonstrated work that I've done on their behalf as well as on my client's behalf. I guess, with those three things, I really feel like our biggest issue right now is how we're communicating with our public that we're working on their behalf and how we're delivering to them. That's the most crucial thing. We can sit up here and talk about that we're getting grants and we're doing this and we're doing that, and we have an economic development counselor position at the city, but how is that person being held accountable, and how are we delivering results to the community on what it is they're accomplishing? I haven't seen any of that, and I've been looking at stuff for now the last 12 weeks or so. So thank you.
Well, I have one question that's not part of your list here.
Oh.
Okay, so we are a senior living community. So what are your plans to take care of our seniors who are living not just here at Regency, but here in Oak Harbor? We have the center that's always available for our senior community, but what else can you do, or what else can you bring to the table to help our seniors?
Yes, so this is actually something I think that we do really well in this community, as far as our senior center and our the different retirement homes that we have in the community and how we work with them. One of the things, though, that I would really love to see us do more of, and I've actually talked to a few people and I'm looking to work with the high school potentially and implementing this, but I would love to see students coming into these types of facilities and mentoring with some of the residents of these entities. I feel like there's a lot of knowledge that we're losing as a world when we lose our older generation of people. And I was raised by both of my grandparents on my mom's side and on my dad's side. I spent a lot of time with them growing up because, like I said, I was the child of a single mom, and my parents were young and kind of off doing other things. So I got to spend a lot of time with them, and I have a very deep affinity for elderly people because I spent so much time with them. And I used to love listening to the stories and the things that my grandpa would pass down to me and share with me. And there are just so many things that we're losing in this world when we lose people every day. And I would love to see some of our young people take a better, deeper interest in learning some of those things. And also, I think it would do a lot for some of the mental health issues and crises that we're seeing in young people today too as well. So thank you.
A really good question here, and I think one of the best ways we can help move Oak Harbor forward as well. You have both of us candidates here today at this forum, this debate, and that's awesome. But I would sit here and say, anybody on council, if Terry calls and says, hey, let's have a town hall about this issue, come have a meet and greet with my residents, we're here. Every one of us is here. And so in that exchange, we can find out what you guys need from us. But every time I come in a facility like this, I just find myself so blessed that we're not reinventing the wheel. Some of the struggles that we have today are struggles that you guys have already dealt with in the past. So having that relationship of what can you do for me, what can I do for you, those are important. The senior center we have here in town, it's beautiful, surely. Continuing to support our local hospital is a big thing. I don't even know where we would be, but we nearly lost that hospital. And, they have been able to restore their footing. They have all the local governments behind them. But to get Oak Harbor, with that intentional economic development, for instance, I think there would be medical facilities that fit in there with some specialists. So, so often it's not a ride to Skagit County to see the cardiologist, et cetera. So there's so much more of being able to bring into town what our residents need. This would have been back when I first moved here 24 years ago. A friend of mine, Bill Heller, was going to Mount Vernon 3 days a week for dialysis because 25 years ago there wasn't a single dialysis center in Oak Harbor or on Whidbey Island. Now there's two. So there's so many things like that with our intentional economic development coordinator, we can land those type of facilities. There's a, brain fart, skin doctor, come on, somebody help me, dermatologist. There's a dermatologist here in town, Reese Bleak, and Reese wants to build a medical facility here in town, bigger than what he has. And to bring in a lot of those specialists, it would be amazing. And as Oak Harbor continues to grow, that's something we will do. But first and foremost, to come have that conversation and ask what you guys need. And if it's beyond an Oak Harbor question, we'll bring our state legislators in here and they will help get the results we need. Together we're all better, and that's what we have to continue. So thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, so now we're open for questions. Does anybody have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know how you feel, both of you, working with the schools, not just the superintendent and the upper people, but with the teachers. As in connection, so that they can talk to their students about what you're doing and stuff.
I love that question. You know, here a while back, this would have been about, this was probably 6 or 8 months ago. The debate club at school had reached out and they wanted to know if I would come to the school and enter into a debate with them. So the position I had to take was why you should send your kid to a boarding school. The devil's advocate, I guess, is the position I took. And they're like, don't feel bad. Nobody's won the devil's advocate position all year. But it was a good debate we had. But before I agreed to do that debate with them, I said, I will, but you have to do one thing for me. The debate club has to come to city council, and at least one of you has to give a 3-minute public comment. And they did, and they loved it. So to get that exposure to government it is so cool. And to work with the teachers, to work with the school administration on that, and to grow those types of partnerships. I know when I was on the Parks Board, and this would have been about 8 years ago, I wanted to see us create like so the school board has a student position on the school board. So I wanted to see that at the Parks Board, or at the city. You know, at the city we can add those on some of our advisory committees to get them involved. I would have to look back at my news feed last night, but there was a local city, I say local, I think it was Eastern Washington, but there was a city last night that appointed an 18-year-old to a vacancy on a city council seat, realizing that, you know, there's a month left on that vacancy or something before the new individual gets elected. But to introduce the kids to government, if you look around, you'll hear people say, well, there should be term limits on Congress, for instance. Maybe, but there's nobody clamoring at the bit to take those positions. We have to get our youth involved. I don't think any of us want to sit up here and be career politicians. I would love to have somebody in 4 years ready to take my spot. So we get there by working with the schools and making it regular and ordinary to be involved. Because if somebody gets to 25 or 30 without ever being involved in the process, it's just not something they're going to think to be part of. But if you go all the way back to, you know, middle school and they're starting to be involved in the process, a great thing, and it's what we really need to work on, and to work with the teachers and the superintendent and everybody on that. I think we will get where we need to be. And we have, here in Oak Harbor, we have some of the best, brightest, most involved kids I've ever seen. You know, to see kids be able to continue to go out of here and go right into the Naval Academy or something, it's a special community, it really is. They're our future. Thank you.
So thank you for your question. I'm a huge supporter and proponent of education. I am a lifelong learner, and I will continue to educate myself and learn. I recently was accepted into law school and will be going back to law school as well. I believe that when we quit learning, we quit evolving as people, so it's very important to me. But in addition to education, we also have to look at how we're supporting our teachers and our children that are in the schools and what we're doing to foster productive, healthy working environments for them. So whether that be in the clubs, which I've worked with Key Club, I've worked with other organizations, I've been a mentor with other business leaders to help people gain life skills, whether it be through business and my business. I've done internships with students, or whether it be if they were plumbers or electricians and they were getting life skills in that way. I mean, again, it's all about just obtaining skills and learning life skills and how you're going to be a better, more well-rounded adult. And learning, again, everything is key to learning. So I'm a huge proponent of that. I support it 1,000,000%, and I think that we absolutely have to do that. I think exposing them to government is important and crucial as well. Absolutely, they need to understand how it works. But I also think it's more important that they're a well-rounded person, and that because your education is something no one can ever take from you, you take that wherever you go. So.
Do we have another question?
I have just one comment.
Yes, Barbara.
I've lived here for 63 years. And people didn't have all the government help that they have now. We helped each other. And they say, now, well, let them do it. No. Get together and do it yourself. There's a lot of things that could be done more and better if people were neighborly as they once were.
Thank you for that comment. All right, Tom, you have a question?
Yeah, I'll stand so you can all hear. You guys are gonna have a couple of the first meetings to work with an agenda. I don't envy you, because on that agenda, there's gonna be some old business. And the reason I say that is on that old business, there's gonna be a couple of high priority issues that were kicked down the road. And you are gonna have to determine which one of those needs to come back up as a priority issue. The reason I say that is on your council, I really recommend that you really find out the interests and talents of these council members and delegate a responsibility to 2 or 3 of those who can really take the handle on that priority issue that needs to be addressed again, mixed in with all the new things that we're dealing with, so that now, instead of kicking that down the road again, we can grab a hold of that, make it a very important issue, maybe get rid of some of the arguments that were holding it back, and maybe take care of that issue in an expedient manner, and at least address it so that it doesn't get kicked down the road again. And I know on the agenda, I'm on a board and I see those agendas and I say, oh my goodness, how are we ever gonna take care of this? But you can do it. We do it because we address that issue to somebody on the council who has an interest in that and can help carry that ball for you. Please don't try to do it all yourself. Delegate that to the person that can help you get it done. I don't wanna see things getting kicked down the road again. Okay?
Thank you, Tom. Did you want to make a comment?
Real quick, sure. Tom, thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I think that's the togetherness that I think so many of us speak of. And you're right, if you try to carry all the water up the hill on your own, it's gonna get spilled. So teamwork makes the dream work, and we do have a very special council with very many diverse skill sets. And there is a lot of old business, such as how in the world do we have 5 less police officers than we did in '97? There are a lot of things that have been kicked down the road that do need addressed. So thank you so much for that.
So yes, Tom, thank you very much. I agree with you. So, what I like to look at with the city and the mayor's position is that you're more of a leadership role and you're a visionary, and you have a team of managers or other up and coming leaders underneath you. And when you're in a leadership role, as I've been in the past and currently am now as well, you recognize and you realize that it's all about the team of people that you're building up around you, and that you're delegating those things to. You're really the figurehead. You're not accomplishing that much. They're doing all the work. You just get to stand there and either get beat up or take the credit for it. So, but either way, yes, I agree with you. And it's all about the team of people that you're bringing up with you. So, and I will say that we have a pretty remarkable team in a lot of areas at the city. We have some things that, that probably need to be looked at a little closer, and maybe that's just having a different leadership style and a different person in there. We have the current mayor has been in there for 8 years, and he has been somewhat absent over the last 4 years because he's had a plethora of health issues. So maybe when there's a more present leadership position in the mayor now, maybe that will take on a different light, and we'll see some of that change that you're talking about, and we can start making headway on some of those issues. So thank you very much.
Okay, does anybody else have a question? Yes, sir?
I'm not a resident here, but I heard about the meeting. Is it okay if I speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a nuts and bolts question.
All right.
That's important to me. To me, the city needs to provide for me
Here.
water.
Are you able to come up forward, because we can barely hear you up front? I could bring the microphone, but it's too short. Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. Okay,
There's 3 things that are important to me.
okay,
Number 1 is water.
want good water in this town. It's something I've always appreciated. I'd like to see that continue. I think that's a city responsibility to make sure that that's always gonna be there. Second thing is I want my garbage taken away every week. This is a nuts and bolts type question here. And the third thing is roads, because I drive on them every day. And I was gonna ask both gentlemen, since Whidbey Avenue has been finished again, just this last month, if either of you have driven on that road since it was finished. Have you, sir?
Yes.
And have you?
I have, yes.
Yes, and I live there. That road disturbs me. I was wondering if you're comfortable with the end product.
Yeah, you know, so getting that portion of East Whidbey Avenue done was a pretty Herculean task with, you know, 90% of the work below grade, with the sewer lines and the water mains and the storm drains all needing replaced. So to get that done and behind us, you know, pretty amazing. With the new standards in government road design, state, federal, you know, anytime you do that, you know, you're dealing with your active transportation plans, and you have to have biking lanes and things like that, etc. With residential roads like that, you know, where the speed limit is, I say 35 and less, they go with a narrower lane width. 10 foot instead of 12 or 13 feet. And the reason they has found is that that forces vehicles to slow down. When I went down the road, it was a good drive. If there are any issues, I know we had one resident say that a couple of the manhole covers is, because they're in the lane of traffic, a couple of the manhole covers would make some noise. So the contractor was looking at that to see what was going on there. But as far as I've seen, the end product seems very good. As far as, you know, just like in front of the Oak Harbor Fire Station on West Whidbey Avenue was done last year, and you know, coming up next spring, Northeast 7th Avenue in front of the greenhouse that runs from Highway 20 by 711 to Oak Harbor Road. That will be getting done, and there will be a 12-foot wide multi-use walking path, biking path on one side of the road as well. But if you have found any specific issues with East Whidbey, I would love to hear about them. Thank you.
So thank you for your question. It's almost fortuitous. I actually received an email from the owner of the construction company that was in charge of that project, who had concerns himself, because there were things that he felt were being cut by the city that were in the budget. And so I forwarded that with a long list of questions to our current mayor and asked for his explanation of those items, because there are areas of concern with how things were completed in some of the detail work. So yeah.
Can you be specific on what?
I don't have his memo in front of me, but I'd be happy to share that with you. I can get you my contact information.
Would either of you be able to express to me from your own observation what seems to be incomplete on that street? I mean, it's quite obvious to me. Apparently it's not to the city as a whole. Would either of you be able to just drive down that street and say, well, that isn't finished?
Well, I know there are issues with the way the water is running off and sitting in areas. I think, is that still the issue that you're referring to? No? Okay, so I'm not sure then. I mean, that's what I noticed just right away though, with the rain that we just recently had.
Okay.
And I did receive an email, or I did receive a contact, and I will say with state contracts, you have to be very careful, or the state would deem it collusion and not pay. So I immediately removed myself from that conversation. The state was very clear that they did not think a $900,000 change order should commence over Facebook. So as a city council member, there's some things that we aren't privy to that maybe a mayor would be privy to. But the issue that I was aware of had nothing to do with the final product per se.
Good question. Thank you for that, sir. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Since we're talking about roads, could your your gateway to downtown and having that be updated and nice. Can you fix the roads in front of the old People's Bank? Driving down that from the corner at the drugstore and the car dealership down to where you go into, up that hill to into town, downtown. It's terrible. The road needs to be resurfaced or something.
Yeah, and earlier on, I don't know if you remember back to when I mentioned, we were talking about the health of downtown. And I mentioned about possible road diet in front of Ace Hardware, for instance. That is on our docket. I'd have to look at our comp plan, but I think that's scheduled to be done in about 4 years. So what we need to do in that amount of time is figure out what we're gonna do with that road, because it doesn't need to be 4 lanes plus a turn lane or whatever it is now. So, you know, whether it becomes a 2-lane with a turn lane all the way through or a bike path on one side, we will figure out what that looks like. But yes, that road absolutely is one of the roads on the comprehensive plan here coming up. Just as Northeast 7th has needed attention for 20 years. So we're starting to tackle those old business projects. We're starting to finally tackle them as new business. But yes, that is one of the roads that's coming up on the docket pretty soon.
Yes, Bob.
You have a 6-year road improvement plan that you approve every year, don't you?
We do, yes, yes.
So are some of those areas on that plan already?
Yes.
So you know what?
Absolutely. Every road mentioned so far is on that 6-year plan.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody else? Okay, what we're gonna do is gonna wrap it up, and then we just have Ronnie and Shane just say a few more words before we end, unless anybody else has a question. Okay, we'll have Ronnie start.
Okay. So just to tag on to the end of what you were saying though, the 6-year plan and the infrastructure, this is a Herculean event because this is one of those cans that have been kicked down the road for many years, and we're not just seeing that locally. This is, again, you guys are gonna get tired of hearing this, but it is a nationwide problem. But what we need to do is really prioritize what is going to have the greatest impact for the greatest volume of our community and our thoroughfares, and make sure that we're tackling those first. So I think that would be either one of our priorities going forward. I also believe though that it is a priority of our city staff as well. There was one thing, I think it was like 3 workshops ago, where something came up that seemed a little, maybe out of place, and there would warrant a more in-depth conversation around that. But as far as everything else goes, everything looked it looked like it had the right emphasis and priority as far as how we were going to address it as a community and how we needed to move forward to start doing that. So that was all I wanted to say to that piece. Just to close, first I want to say again, thank you very much. I know this is the second time you're hosting us, so it's probably not always fun to sit and listen to 2 people running for public office, or maybe it is. I mean, whatever it is for you. But I mean, thank you for being here, taking the time, and welcoming us into your homes. And again, I'm just going to ask you again to take a look at the voters pamphlet, take a look at experience, proven experience, and education, and cast your vote. And either way, I will respect your vote and your opinion, and we will all move forward as a community. So thank you very much.
So this is the 6th and final debate of this campaign. So I'll offer a closing statement that's quite a bit different from what I normally would offer. Throughout the 8 months of this campaign, I've walked hundreds of miles, knocking on nearly 8,000 doors. It's the people behind those doors and each of you that fuel my continued efforts. This has been a long campaign, and we will go into Election Day knowing that we did everything we could to win, that we didn't compromise who we were, that we kept to the high ground. Adhering to the high ground at times, despite daily attacks, adhering to that high ground can only be explained through a strong belief in God and the power of prayer. So we'll go into Election Day knowing that we did all we could do and that we did it right. I have a ton of faith, and I know that if what fits into the grand plan is that I'm supposed to win, that I'm supposed to take on 40 more hours of work a week, that I'm supposed to take on all the city's burdens and responsibilities, then I will do that with the biggest smile in the world, with 100% effort, like I've approached everything. If God thinks that I'm supposed to play more ball and fish more with my kids, then that's what's supposed to happen as well. You know, I have tons of faith that this will turn out how it's supposed to, and that together we will continue to move Oak Harbor forward. You know, for me, I love Oak Harbor to death, and even though I've never even met some of you in here before, even though this is our second time here, I love each and every one of you, I truly do, and hope that we continue to get to know each other better. I just humbly ask that you please consider electing me your next mayor, and please continue to reach out and let us know how the city of Oak Harbor can help you and how you think we can help future generations, because that's really what this is all about. So thank you so much for having us, and don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 7th. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Well, I just want to extend the thank you to all our visitors who came to our community, as well as our wonderful residents who participated